We're good? All right. Thank you. Thank you for everybody. I apologize for the delay in coming back. At this time, we will recall to order the regular meeting of the Suffern Central School District for February 1st, 2022. Everybody's still here, all our board members, administrators. So at this time, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'm not sure about that.
All right. Student report. Do we have a student report tonight? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Georgia Canty. I'm filling in for Michael Assad tonight as the student liaison, and I just want to talk about some of the things going on in the high school in the next few weeks. So first, we have the Rockland County Board of Elections that will be coming to the high school to register all of our eligible seniors to vote. This has been done for the last 4 years, and it's also part of our Civics Readiness Initiative. Then we have the final Suffern High School Winter Concert. It's Thursday, February 3rd, and it starts at 7:30 in the high school auditorium. On Wednesday, February 9th at 7 p.m., there's an in-person 8th grade parent orientation at the high school for incoming 9th graders. On February 11th, Friday, the students involved in Heroes and Cool Kids will have their second training to prepare them for the next visit to Suffern Middle School, which will be sometime in the next few months. The senior peer leaders are meeting with freshmen next week to discuss social media and how to use it and how not to use it. And there will be a hockey game this Friday that students will be able to go to. And finally, with Valentine's Day coming up next week, Art Honor Society will be selling Valentine's Day cards that they make themselves during unit lunch. That's all. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So on Friday for the hockey game, it's opened back up now starting this week to the full, I think, full attendance, right? Yeah. 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 All right. So then everybody can expect Friday to be a packed house at Sporto. All right. Yes. All right, 1.08 minutes of the regular meeting of January 18th. Do I have a motion? Mr. Frazier, second. Mrs. Hodge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. 1.09, superintendent comments.
Thank you very much. We are deep into the winter season. Obviously, it's bitterly cold outside, but we're pivoting whenever there's some cold, icy, snowy weather coming our way. And I'd like to thank everybody who was involved in the successful implementation of the remote day when we had inclement weather. Based on our calendar for this year, that is going to be our preference to shift to remote instruction so as not to add on additional school days into our calendar. There are some great things happening in our classrooms here in the very deep dead of winter. We have some great project-based learning activities taking place all throughout the district. I've seen our math and literacy specialists really diving deep into their work, whether it's here at Hillburn, collaborating with one another, and then the subsequent training that takes place with teachers in the individual buildings. The middle school is implementing and really beginning their Leader in Me training with their staff. We heard about the Heroes and Cool Kids, the concerts that are coming back, and then our focus on civic readiness, which is really fantastic. And it's nice to see that Suffern is standing ahead of the pack with embracing the importance of recognizing and celebrating civics. Good things are happening here in Suffern, and I think it probably goes without saying that we are on the downward slope of COVID transmission here, and we all look forward to the day where we can shed our masks and go more and more back to normal. We're going in that direction, and we hope to continue to accelerate in that direction as well. I'd Thus concludes the superintendent's report for February 1st, 2022.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Public participation. This is public participation on action items only. If somebody wishes to speak on the listed action items for tonight, please step to the podium. Okay. Seeing as there are no participants, we will close that portion of the meeting and move into our action items. So tonight we have action items 2.01 through 2.11. I would call for a consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they wish to pull at this time?
I do.
Yes.
2.06.
2.06. Okay. Any others?
No.
No? Anybody else? Okay. So I'll call for a consent agenda. This will be for action items 2.01 through 2.05 and 2.07 through 2.11. Do I have a motion? Mr. Frazier, second.
Second.
Mr. Donnelly. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, 2.06. This is location release and amendment to location release. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Mr. Shapiro, second.
Second.
Mr. Donnelly, discussion.
So regarding this item, I don't have a quarrel with the plain language of what was submitted as far as the release is concerned. As I've discussed with other members of the board and with Dr. Gunderson, my hesitation overall is with the project itself. And so for that reason, I asked for this item to be pulled.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other comments or discussion on this item? Okay. So 2.06, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Nay.
Ms. Dickman? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. All right, so that concludes our action items for tonight. 3.01, this will be a somewhat brief budget discussion and I guess we call it a presentation, right? You are presenting. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Steve Schleicher.
All right, thank you very much, President Curran. Let me just get ready here in just a second. Eric, are we ready? Okay. You ready? All right. Good evening, Board of Education. And tonight we're going to do a budget workshop, February 1st, 2022. And the reason for this budget workshop tonight is I'm going to go over the conceptual framework of our budget. We thought it very important that all of us, not only here in the Board of Education, but the public in general, to know how and why we do a budget. What is our methodology? And our methodology is always modest budget increases and continuing our excellent education environment for our students and our staff. I'll move on. Well, I say I will. There we go. We'll move on to our mission statement. The mission statement here is really the why. Why do we do what we do? The mission statement is issued to educate students in the critical skills, essential knowledge necessary to be informed, responsible, and active citizens, prepared to take the next steps in their education, careers, lives in our diverse society. Or in other words, what do we do here? We educate for personal excellence. Everything you see here tonight are the 5 pillars. If you've read our strategic plan, which is in draft form right now, these are our 5 pillars from our strategic plan. They're not necessarily in order. I've switched the order here. In the first, you'll see on top is targeted resources, because we target our resources to drive every other thing that we do here. These are what we like to do. These are our goals for success: social emotional learning and supports for our children, our family and community engagement, to improve our staff development and supports, and of course, the all-encompassing academic success for all of our students. That is truly our mission. It's about, again, the why. It's about opportunities and programs for kids. That's what we do here. Let's move on. This is also right out of our strategic plan. I thought it was very important for the community, and again, to remind you folks as new board members and existing board members about our district. We have approximately 4,000 students. As you know, K-12. We're an award-winning school district. We have K-12 STEAM education programs here. Just a brief look at what our classrooms look like. We have about 32% of our students, believe it or not, that do come from economically disadvantaged homes. We have about 15% students with disability currently, and of course that ebbs and flows. And currently our English language learners are about 8%, and of course that ebbs and flows on a daily, monthly, and yearly basis. Just some quick fast facts too. Our average class size is grade 3 to 12 or about 17. Daily attendance rate is 94%, which is awesome. It means our kids really want to be here. We're doing it right. Our average pupil spending is about $30,000 that we spend here, which is actually great. It's slightly higher than usual, and obviously much higher than the average across the state. So we do a good job providing resources for our children for those programs. Number of teachers employed here are currently about 400 is where we stand right now. And all importantly, our graduation rate here, 94%, again, which is very, very high. It's very good. Most common postgraduate plans of our students that you can see in the bottom right corner are college and university bound. 97% of our students go to college or university. That's awesome. That's really, really high. 2% into the workforce and 1% currently entering the military. What do we look at when we build our budget and we look at our conceptual framework? These are in alphabetical order. They're not in any kind of order by priority, just so you know. First of all, we look at our building initiatives and repairs. For example, you sit in this beautiful newly designed professional development room that we use on a daily and weekly basis. We also take a look at our consumer price index. Consumer price index, as you know right now, or you may not know, is approximately 5.9 to 6%, and that, of course, varies month by month. We take a look at our debt service on old projects that we've done. We currently have some debt service coming off of our books. One of our bonds will be paid by the end of the school year, so we'll be able to hopefully use those funds for other initiatives. Our English language learners are very important to us. If you were here prior to the meeting and got to watch the video, you'll notice we hired almost 25 teachers, I believe, was mentioned by Dr. Gunderson, and many of those teachers are multi-language learners, or are multi-language teachers, I'm sorry, to help our multi-language learners. I'll get that straight. Thank you. Obviously, we look at enrollment projections. Right now, we stand, again, we ebb and flow, but about 4,000 students overall here at Suffern Central K-12. We look at our real property tax certiorieries, and those ebb and flow on both the commercial and residential basis. And basically, that's local property assessments. We take a look at our revenue projections that we'll take a look at in just a few moments, a little bit more in depth. But obviously, we're funded by both state, federal, and local dollars. Those are our 3 sources of funding: state revenues, federal revenues, and state or local tax dollars provided by our constituents. Other things we look at are social emotional learning of our students. Obviously, you know, we've all dealt with some downright emotions going through COVID the last 2 years, right? And trauma. Thank you very much. Very good word, trauma. So that's first and foremost on our minds for both our students and our staff and everyone that we touch in our lives. Student services that we provide as well. for our special education students, and the other services that we just provide, again, with social, emotional learning, and trauma. Things that we look at, teacher and other employee FTEs. I mentioned we have approximately 400 teachers, but the FTEs overall, both full and part-time, run somewhere almost 700, believe it or not, because of aides and other staff. Transportation, both public and non-public. We've been dealing obviously with that on a daily basis with COVID. As we all know, that's been first and foremost in our minds as well. Technology and Education Law 2D, over the past 2 years, we sit in this room in the height of technology right now. Some of us are sitting with computers in front of us. I'm sitting here with a very nice laptop in front of me. Students now have all new Chromebooks, iPads, and the technology they needed to go virtual and be at home when they needed that. I'll give a good shout out to Eric, our technology director, who's actually running this presentation. Thank you, Eric, for that. He did a great job. And now kudos out to our curriculum folks for UPK, pre-K, and whether it be a full or a half-day program for next year as well. We're reviewing those things as well. We will be taking over our new UPK program for next year as well from a local contractor. So again, those are just a few of the things. It's not all encompassing, of course, but just some of the highlights that we look at, some of the very important things. We talked about revenues just a little while ago. These are some of the numbers that we received from the state, and some of the things that I will highlight for you first and foremost is our foundation aid. This has been big. You've heard our governor say that we're going to have a full foundation aid formula run, and within the next 2 years, this year's being year 1, next year being year 2, that the formula will now be at 100%. As you can see here in Suffern, we've got almost a $4.3 million increase in foundation aid, and that is very important for us because that is our stable aid that comes in, how many children we have. It's the foundation aid formula, believe it or not. I'd love to sit here and explain it to you, but we'd still be here next week because the formula is almost 26 pages long, believe it or not. It's that complicated. Some of the other things I'll point out, I will point out to you as well. Just let me get my other pen going here. Everything from this line all the way down to the bottom on both of these are what we call expense-driven aids. And what that means is we need to spend the money in order to be reimbursed. Each one of those is associated with a reimbursement rate that we receive on each one of those. For example, our BOCES aid, you'll notice, oh, wow, that looks like a real drastic change on our BOCES aid. Absolutely it is. But the reason is because in 21-22, that aid for BOCES was actually driven by what we spent, believe it or not, in 2021. And our BOCES aid ratio is about 50%. So what happened in 2021? COVID. What did we need to do? We needed to provide technology for every child in this district. That's what we did. And luckily we were able to do it. And we had the foresight, luckily, again, thank you, Eric, and the rest that were involved, to be able to do it. And they did it very well, and they did it seamlessly. And big shout out to all of our teachers and our learners for being able to do that. That was huge. Many districts weren't so fortunate. So when you see the drop go from 3.1 million to 1.8 million, it's because of the anticipation of what we were going to spend this year with BOCES. So again, our aid rate is about 50%. So we don't need to buy all that technology anymore. We already have it. So that's why that dropped. Again, I remind you, every one of those line items is expense driven. I'll point out transportation as well. If you take a look at transportation here and here, again, our transportation aid ratio is about 50% as well. In transportation, obviously our expenses are going up, and we expect a pretty good increase for next year as well. And again, about a 50% aid ratio there. Building aid, same thing. Building aid, we get about 48% building aid. That's our last line. And that's on existing projects, and that aid is actually driven by our debt service. Our debt service, as I mentioned, is also going down, but believe it or not, our aid is remaining pretty much stable on what we have left. So I will point out my last number here overall for next year's budget proposal from the governor, about $3.6 million increase, which is great, and we're very happy at this point. That being said, I would just like to say thank you, and thank you to everyone involved at Suffern for helping educate our students and educating for personal excellence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Steve. It's a very informative, even though it's quick. It's very, it's very lean what you presented, but I think it sets a great foundation for when we start to have the real in-depth workshops.
Which will be our next meeting. You will have a complete set of numbers, and I'll give you a little bit of budget 101 so you can understand how we flow, and we'll work from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Shows how we're going to get a little over 3 million more in aid, and we're saving about 1.5 million in that second category. So that means that cost is down. What does it mean for our taxes?
I'll tell you what. How about if you can hold that thought, when we get to public participation, you can come up to the podium and ask all those questions, and that will give us an opportunity to then take your questions back and get answers for the next meeting.
Well, I was looking for an answer now because you pointed out all this, that was relevant to get an answer now based on a simple thing.
Sure.
Went over the numbers, I just want to see.
And that's,
I mean, it looks like the cost of the community's gone down, the aid has gone up, but I don't see, taxes just keep up and up. It seems to me that they should stabilize and go down for a year.
and those are all the numbers that we work out during our budget workshops over the next 2 months. So as that process takes place, that's when we start to have those discussions. This presentation that you saw tonight really does not go into any budgetary numbers for the district. It's simply just showing what the aid is for next year. That's all. Absolutely. Come the end of budget season, that's when we'll have all the finalized numbers. This is really just a precursor to our budget workshops and the budget season. Is that, no, that's okay. That's all right. Anyone else have any questions? All right, so I just have two just quick comments. You don't need to, they're easy comments. And it's more just for point of clarity. When we talk about the transportation aid, and keeping in mind that, as you said, those revenue-based expenses, when we receive those dollars, the expectation is if our transportation aid is $4.7 million, then it stands to reason that our transportation budget for 22-23 is going to be close to $9.5 million. Okay. It's just something to have in the back of your heads. And the only other thing I just wanted to make sure everybody understood was the BOCES aid for 21-22. That's really the anomaly. That high number of 3.1 million is not the norm. So we shouldn't look at it as if we're losing, over $1 million in BOCES aid. We got much more for this year than we normally would have had it not been for COVID. So just want to make sure that everybody here, everybody watching, that everybody just understands those points.
Sometimes the state gives you things like that, and they're up to, because of circumstances, the cost went up this year, you got to pay for both.
Yeah.
How do you know the state's
And
not gonna think that's normal now, and then you gotta give us that going forward?
Well, and that's why these are revenue-based expenses. So it's all based on what we spend in the previous year. And that's why I felt it was important just to clarify that for everybody. All right. So we'll move on to 5.01. This will be a discussion on the draft district calendar. I don't know, Dr. Goodness, if you could take the opening on this one.
Absolutely. Mr. Coronado, can you post the calendar there? All right, everyone. So this calendar is not too far out of the ordinary for all of us, but let's start off in September. We have Labor Day on the 5th of September, with the first full day for staff being on the 6th, which would mean that students would report to their first day of school on September 7th. Without going through every single detail of this calendar, you can see the typical Jewish observances that we have in late September, beginning of October. We have off for October 10th. November 8th is a superintendent's conference day and essentially a professional development day for staff members, so students do not report to school, followed by the Veterans Day observance, Thanksgiving, and the December recess. You can see from the 26th through to and including the 2nd, which is essentially the observance of the New Year's Day. MLK Day is off. The February break is an extended weekend, which has been the case for the last several years at least, with the Monday and Tuesday being off. A superintendent's conference day, so staff are in, but students are not in session on March 10th. The April break, the 3rd through the 7th, which encompasses, beginning on the 5th of April, the beginning of Passover. That's when Passover begins, and Easter is on the 9th. Good Friday is on that 7th, so we are off for that as well. And you can say we have the day off for Memorial Day, and then the 16th of June is highlighted there because that is the beginning of the early dismissal for the elementary schools, as well as testing sessions for Suffern High School and middle school, the 16th through to the 23rd, which is the last day for school. Of course, also recognizing that we observe Juneteenth as well, where everyone is off from school. The key to this particular calendar is there's a shift in mindset from this year's calendar, where we do not have snow days built into the calendar. If we use a snow day, if we utilize a snow day, we would have to take it out of a vacation day. With next year's calendar, we have 3 days built in. So you can see in red highlight, actually just miss it. Oh, you can't quite see it there on the screen. There you go, thank you. 183. So students are to report to school 180 days. We have a calendar that is 183 as our proposal for next year, being that if we didn't utilize any snow days next year, staff and students would get those 3 days back as vacation days. And you can see at the very bottom there, 3 emergency days are being built into the calendar. If no snow days, we should really call it, if no inclement weather days are utilized, schools will be closed on the day after Easter, the day after that April break, and then 2 days surrounding Memorial Day weekend, and so on and so forth. You can see how the calendar would be impacted. So there would be a give back of days. We believe that this allows people to plan their vacations more appropriately. And it also sets up a little bit more of a positive mindset that when there's snow, it's something to be celebrated because we have 3 days built into the calendar and we don't necessarily have to shift to remote instruction if we didn't believe that that was in the best interest of teaching, learning, and what our students and staff were hoping for. So that's the proposal right there, that we have 183 days built in, and it's up for board discussion.
Well, first, I just want to acknowledge that the board did, we received a few emails from some parents, and I want to thank those that did email the board with their concerns or suggestions, mostly as it relates to snow days and the way that this year's calendar functioned versus, possibilities for next year. And as it turns out, many of you may know that we used to have this type of calendar. We used to have the built-in snow days, and we did change that some years back. But I'm I'm pleased with the way that this works, and I think that it makes most people happy. Again, knowing that we can't make everybody happy. But again, I just wanted to acknowledge those community members who did reach out. Your voices were heard and your messages received, and just want to thank you for that. Does anybody have anything that, and any thoughts about the calendar? Is everybody good with this, or anything that you feel looks, misguided or incorrect, or?
I just have one question regarding the February break. Are there high schools in the county, along with BOCES and everything, off that entire week? How does that play into it with our calendar and I guess the other schools and BOCES?
So that's something. I don't have the information on the entire county right now. We are a little bit on the leading edge of developing our calendar and having this discussion. That's certainly information that I could solicit and get back to the board with.
I was under the impression that that February break there is kind of driven by BOCES because of the transportation of students and everything. And I was just wondering, do they have the entire week off and how those days are made up, or if they're made up, to come to the 180 mandatory days?
I can get that information for you.
Thanks, Doc.
Anybody else?
Yeah. So my feedback from the community, some families in the community, has been that they would like to see the President's Week restored as a week off in February. With the understanding that, of course, that is disruptive, to other families for various reasons. But that once upon a time it did exist, and it sort of gets whittled away in recent years. So I was wondering, maybe not for next year, but maybe that's something we could consider including in future years, say when religious holidays fall on weekends. Can we, maybe offer a February week off break from time to time? Because I think that's something that people in the community would like to have back.
So certainly the calendar is the board's prerogative, and if the board would like to take that into consideration in either next year's calendar or future calendars, that's the board's prerogative. And we could develop a couple of drafts showing what the scenarios would look like if we had a full February break and if we didn't. So we could certainly, I could put something like that together for next year's calendar as an additional draft if you'd like.
Okay. Anyone else? You never got a vacation. Okay. All right. All right. So we'll move on to board member comments. Any board member comments at this time?
I have comments.
Okay.
Typed it out. So first, I'm grateful this district allows for board member comments during meetings. I don't believe that was always the case, and it may not be so throughout the state. So for that, I'm thankful. I'm afraid the past 22 and a half months have landed us in a habitual, complacent place. I fear we've lost sight of that which we continue to miss every day. I'm taking this opportunity to share and remind everyone. Sitting in the cafeteria and talking with parents, babysitters, and carpoolers waiting for our students at dismissal. The enthusiasm at breakfast the morning of a field trip. PTA fundraisers, fall carnivals, talent shows, a bonfire for homecoming, elementary schools welcoming parents into buildings with a game or a book to celebrate a birthday, instrumental petting zoo, shopping for dresses and ties for important celebrations and performances, The elated look on grandparents' faces while applauding a performance and students waving to them in the audience. A new superintendent so enthusiastic about working here in Suffern, who's only seen students' smiles through their eyes, not their mouths, not their teeth, or best of all, their gums. Marching band sitting in the stands during football games, playing music to cheer on our team. Poetry jam. Conferences, including an embrace with a teacher because she changed your child's life. A mother's pride while setting a beautifully displayed meal, complete with flowers, tablecloths, and cornucopias to share for teacher appreciation. A teacher whose job is to teach instead of to police and monitor a single ply poly cotton blend from Old Navy soiled with pen ink and lip gloss because it's been buried at the bottom of their backpacks for a week, worn a half an inch beneath a student's nose. Lip dub. Parents assisting educators with holiday crafts, creating lifelong friendships at PTA meetings. I have them. Our beloved spring musical, sitting in the grass, watching students compete at Olympic Day. We can do all of these things again safely, so let's not lose sight of what truly matters.
Thank you. Some beautiful imagery. And I hope that we are on the course back to a lot of those things in the near future. Any other comments?
Your hope we're on the way back. What does that mean?
Let us finish our board member comments, and then if you want, are there other board member comments? No? All right. All right, Ms. Hodge, thank you. Public participation. This is public participation on any district-related matter. If you would like to speak on behalf of yourself or the community, or, you know, if you have opinions about this district, please step to the podium, state your name and district affiliation. It's a 3-minute time limit, so by all means. Yeah, absolutely. The floor is yours. Just all I ask is just state your name and affiliation, and we don't mention
My name's
district personnel or student names.
My name's Michael Mendez. I got 2 students in the school district. They started here in kindergarten. Then now one's in high school, one's in junior high. I'd like to say I agree with what she said. And I ask you why, what does that mean? Because, and like Dr. Gunderson said, we hope to be someday in the near future where we can take these off. My question is, why not today? These things are more dangerous, I believe, and I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but common sense tells me this is more dangerous than not wearing it. I'm supposed to breathe clean air, fresh air, not the cloth that's in a mask. And a mask, when you put it on your face, all you're doing is baking bacteria back and forth. That's what you do when you breathe. It's like putting leftovers in Tupperware. They build up moisture, and if you don't touch them for a while, they end up having mold. Well, that mold doesn't start on day 3 or 6. It starts on day 1. And if you took all your masks that you wore all day and tested them, at the end of the day, I guarantee you'd find dangerous pathogens and bacteria built in the masks. And I don't see why you'd ever want to wear them again after you learn that. So I suggest you humor me and everybody else and test all these masks that you're wearing on a regular basis and find out. Because there's nothing they could do for you. All they could do is stop spittle when we talk, stuff we've been doing our whole lives. But as far as the mask, unless you're in an operating room where you're trying to not spit into a cavity, or if you're in some place that's got toxic fumes, this can't stop anything. Those can't stop anything. Even N95s won't stop. If the virus wants to, if it's a contagious person in this room and it wants to get to any of us, It'll go through our eyes, through our skin, through our hands, through our nose, not only our mouth and nose, and it will go through any mask. Unless we're all wearing hazmat suits, I don't see how we can protect from anything. And we all know this virus isn't deadly anymore. It's never been deadly to the whole population. And, you know, these are my opinions, but it's common sense. People are not dropping. If people were dropping, we would all be wearing hazmat suits. You know, and the numbers do go down, and we're being told things, and we're doing things because we're being told, not because it's common sense, and not because it's science or medical. And science and medical are just estimates and guesses themselves in a lot of cases. They're not always proven out. And this is crazy. We all look, everybody here looks like a dumb chicken. I'm sorry to say it, but you look like a dumb chicken wearing these things. And talking through them isn't easy. And it is, and I read today that 350% increase in kids' speech ability of young kids because they can't see people's faces. You know, and she talked about the smiles that are missing and all this stuff. We should just pull them down today. You don't have to listen to the state. You know, look, I'm going to tell you it's my opinion, but if it walks like a duck and it talks and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. They're so corrupt up in Albany and in DC, and it doesn't stop there. And it doesn't change because we want it to or we disagree or agree with them. It is disgusting. And we're supposed to be here. And I'll tell you another thing. I'm actually proud of Suffern and you people because through the pandemic, you did a better job than most of the country as far as keeping the kids educated and smarter. So I'm proud of that. But at some point, you got to say no to these people, even if you have to sue them and challenge them, even if it's an expense to the community. It's ridiculous. Masks are silly. And I'll tell you another thing. You might all disagree with me, but vaccines, I've seen reports that say that kids can be sterile. Now, I don't care if it's baloney or not. I would want to know I'd want to see 100 different papers that tell me that kids will never be sterile before I let my kid get a vaccination. You know, I don't understand why people just blatantly accept this. This is not a deadly virus. It's a virus, and you can't stop that it's out there. But we don't have to do this stuff. We don't have to bully people into things that they don't want to do. It's insanity. Stuff's got to stop. And the kids are suffering by wearing masks all day. They don't like it. They sweat. Talk to any of them. Talk to your own. Talk to their friends. They have trouble breathing, and they are baking bacteria. This is more dangerous than necessary. And it bothers me. You haven't seen me at a hearing before. I've watched a couple online, and I don't know you. You might all be wonderful people. For all I know, you could all be serial killers. I don't know you. You don't know me. But I do see that as compared to other school districts, you guys really are doing a better job here as far as getting the kids educated. So I applaud you for that. But just because I like certain things you do, just like anybody else, don't have to like everything you do. And it doesn't make you bad people or doing the wrong thing. You seem to try hard here, and I appreciate that. But this is stupid. This is really stupid. This is dangerous and stupid, and we got to stop it. And we got to challenge and fight against the state if they want to make you and mandate us to wear this stuff. I think I've said enough.
Thank you. Can I just ask you, can you spell your last name for me?
M-I-N-D-E-S.
M-I-N-D-E-S?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the public who wishes to speak? Yes. And I'm sorry, before you, I don't want to take your time. So before you start, I just want to say that you were very clear in our last speaker, very clear in stating this is my opinion. And I just want to say that I appreciate that. And that is a lot of the purpose of public participation in general is for the community to have a voice and a platform to voice their concerns. And public participation is not a back and forth dialogue. It's not an opportunity to have a discussion in real time with the board, but it is an opportunity for people to get up and voice their pleasure or displeasure with things in the district. So I just want to thank those of you that do come here. Even if it's your first time coming here, I do want to thank you for coming here and having that opportunity.
I'm Bethany Frisello. I have 2 boys in 3rd grade at RP Connor. And I kind of want to piggyback off of what he had said. The elephant in the room is that we're all wearing these soggy face diapers. I mean, to the point where what are we doing? There's actually no substantial evidence that masking children helps to prevent transmission. So we're 2 years in. These poor kids, they can't see each other smile. They can't hear each other. The nonverbal communication is, it's just out of hand. My children keep asking me, Mom, when is COVID going to end? And I say, well, we're there. We have a normal life again. And they say, no, when are the masks going to end? That's what they see COVID being, is this masking of their beautiful faces. They did all the right things. Social distanced, stayed home. They follow all the rules because they're good kids. They were put in a position where they had to put themselves in a lesser position for the safety and betterment of all, and especially for adults. And that's really kind of an unnatural thing. Children are not supposed to protect adults. It's unnatural. It's anti-nature. We're here to protect them. They're children. They did it. They did it for 2 years. It's enough. It's enough. We all know it's enough. And, we can all defer to the CDC, whatever. The CDC is a recommendation. Masking is a recommendation. It's not a law. It's not a law. And the Supreme Court out in Nassau County last week rendered it unconstitutional to mandate masks. And then there's been some back and forth, and now they're saying they're going to put the responsibility on the district. So I'm here because, I'm surprised not more people are here, but, you have been doing the right thing. And I do applaud this district. Our kids are still learning. They're still doing okay. Obviously they could be doing better, but, I've been assuming that we'd be doing the right thing. And the right thing is to unmask the children. At this point, it can't go on. It really can't go on. It's so sad. It's so sad. And the kids, my kids tell me all the time, Mom, if my mask falls down past my nose, the kids will say, you're going to get Mrs. blah, blah, blah fired. And now it's becoming like a bullying thing. And, this whole social emotional learning, there's so much stress about it, but what about this? What's the fallout to masking your children for 2 years? Are we even talking about what that's going to look like and what that looks like now? So I'm sorry, but a flimsy, boogery, moist, disgusting piece of fabric that's on their faces for 8 hours a day is only impeding their breathing, which is their God-given right. Their God-given right to learn. Their God-given right to smile. These are like birthrights. We took it away from them. It's a birthright to breathe fresh air. And now that it's been 2 degrees outside, they're not going outside for recess. They don't have any mask breaks. I asked my kids, did you get a mask break? No, we asked, but we don't get any. I mean, the fact that we even need to ask for a mask break is insanity. So I ask you, I know you've been trying to do the best with this whole situation, which has been very hard to navigate. I know that. Every family has the option now, if they want to feel safer and get their children vaccinated, fine. It's time. It's really time. These kids, they deserve it. And we're here to protect them. That's our job. It's not theirs. So that's what I ask of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I make 2 more quick points? Just want to say one, again, about the masks. We're as a society, you see, we're doing excessive, ridiculous amount of testing for the virus. But like I said before, has anybody tested the mask? The school district has any mask been tested at all? Like I said, you're baking stuff all day long. The kids are baking stuff all day long. So somebody should at least 1 week do a week worth of mass testing, you know? And the other thing I wanted to say is I just wanted to point out, going back to the budget stuff with the expenses, the transportation, you had an increase of $500,000 in the next years. And I just wanted to point out, when you do the calculation over the next 2 months, last year we did a lot less busing for obvious reasons. You know, most kids did school from in-home. So there was definitely not as much a need for busing, so less buses traveled. But since then, the cost of not just gasoline is way up, and the cost of repairs, and those are all old buses. Cost of maintenance is up. So it seems like $500,000 for a district this size is way low as far as an increase in the transportation.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
My name is Sophia Valenti. I'm a senior at Suffern High School, and I agree with the no masks, and I think the way that the teachers handle it isn't right either, because there'll be multiple teachers that will say, oh, you can't eat in class, you can't drink in class because you can't have your mask down for more than 5 seconds, which is unreasonable. Or I've had many other teachers say that they will write you up if your mask falls down or if you don't have a mask on. And it's not like they're telling us, oh, like your mask fell down, like, oh, can you please put it up? They'll simply just write you up. And I know multiple kids that feel the same way. And I feel like if you're going to make us wear masks for 6 hours a day and not give us any breaks, or the other thing is, like, you let us, like, we could have no masks for the football games and there'll be millions of kids in the student sections, and we'll have no masks after school going to the mall with multiple people, but we have to wear them in school. So I feel like if that's going to be like a long-term thing, we should have the option to go virtual. And if we don't agree with wearing masks in school, and if we just want to stay home to avoid that. That's all I have to say.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat your name? I'm sorry.
It's Sophia Valenti, Valente.
Thank you. Any other speakers? No? Okay. So we'll close this portion of the meeting. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming here and speaking and honestly for keeping it civil, because a lot of places that doesn't happen. You can watch videos of districts in our county that are not far from here where these meetings get very aggressive. And I think it speaks a lot to our community to have individuals that'll come and have a differing opinion than maybe the district is imposing, but are polite and civil and respectful. So again, I thank everybody for that tonight. Thank you. .01 Superintendent closing comments.
I have no further comments.
Okay, thank you. Then on that note, we'll conclude this meeting for tonight, and I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Mr. Frazier, is there a second? Dr. Nick Pond? All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Thank you all very much. Our next meeting will be on February 15th. It's 2 weeks from today. And I'm not speaking for Steve, but I believe we will have a true budget workshop, our first real budget workshop of the season at our next meeting. All right. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.